Welcome to mtbxp, where I explain things from the engineering point of view. I'm David, and today, talking about wheels. Let's get started. Starting with the basics on a wheel, what we have here is the hub, which is this assembly right here in the center. You have the spokes. The spokes connect to the rim via the nipples, right? And you'll likely have a valve stem to put air into your tubeless tire, or that stem is going to be connected to your tube. And so those components together make a wheel. Two of these wheels make a wheel set, and then to complete the wheel, you have your tires, right? So those are the different parts of your wheels for your bike. Now, going into detail, there's also going to be the axle standard. So what we have here is the 12 millimeter by 148 millimeter through axle, which is considered boost. Non-boost is 12 by 142. Then you have quick release, which is a little older standard, and then you also have super boost, which is a wider than 148, which is I think 150 or so. And then you have fat tire, which is even bigger than that, right? So again, great thing about bikes, all of it is standardized. You just have to pick which standard that you want to follow. So with that, you just make sure that with whatever frame that you choose, or whatever frame that someone asks you as to what are the parts they need, what's the best wheel, it's the one that fits. I think that's probably the most important thing there. So you have to make sure you choose the right one, and that's probably what's going to dictate most what you can pick from. Now that is just the rear tire here. Now on the front, or the rear wheel, I'm sorry, I'm getting those confused as well. Now the front wheel, there's also this, what I have here is boost, right? So this is 110 millimeters width, so that's the axle there is going to be a 12 millimeter by 110 millimeter width through axle standard. You also have the quick release standard, which is, I want to say it's like 9 millimeters or something like that. There's also a non-boost, which is 100 millimeters. And then there's also fat tire. There's fat tire standard as well. So just with the axles alone, you probably have about 25 combinations, front and rear, that you can put together. Again, this standard is going to be dictated by your fork. So depending on what fork you have, maybe it's an old fork that uses uses quick releases. It's a new fork that uses boost. Make sure that what you get for the front is going to be compatible with your fork. In addition to that compatibility there, likely if you're in the market for a boost hub, you're just going to be disc brake compatible. So that's something else that you have to check as well. So again, lots of standards. Just make sure that you pick the right one, because it can get extremely confusing there. There are some wheel sets that will allow you to, let me see if I can do that here, remove the cap to change this out from a quick release to a through axle and vice versa. So also keep that in consideration. Now, the other standards that we have to talk about here is the Freehub body standard. So what I have installed here is the XD driver for SRAM, so that makes it compatible with SRAM's Eagle group set. And you also have available is the old Shimano Freehub body. This was compatible with some of the older drivetrains before Shimano made their new micro spline. So add that standard. So let's just say there's 3 modern standards there. So those 3 modern standards plus the 25 combinations that you have about 75 different combinations of wheels that you can get to pick from. So you can have a lot of fun there. So what we have here is that what Shimano did, you can see the way that they were able to get their 10 tooth cog in the front over here, which really was their main thing to allow you to have that top end speed portion of your drivetrain, was that they shortened this up here, and they were able to allow this portion to have a smaller cog versus the old standard here, which on their SX line, so SRAM's Eagle SX line, the SRAM SX line is compatible with the old Shimano hub, right? But given that the old Shimano hub is a lot thicker toward the edge over here, you can't have that 10-tooth cog. So that's one of the reasons why it's backwards compatible, but you do lose some range, meaning that you're not going to get that 10-tooth cog, whether or not it matters to you. But that's the reason why that's the difference there. Now, in terms of Shimano's microspline, I know that, again, their microspline is that you can see the grooves here. They're a bit more narrow. Outside of that, I don't know too much other than it's compatible with their 12-gear drivetrain. So, again, just adding more standards there. Something to take notice is that these hubs or these free bodies are interchangeable. You can definitely take this off, put this one on, vice versa. Just have to pay for admission to have both, and that's really it there. What you have here on the free body is the pawls. So this is what's going to give you that ratcheting as it spins. So this is how many places that the body is going to engage the ratchet that's inside. So when you hear those crazy hubs out there, it's not the number of pawls that you have on the hub, it's the number of ratchet points that you have internally in the hub. So for this one, this is the Sunringle SRX hub. This has about 30 engagement points inside. So it's going to take about 30 clicks to get one revolution around. So I don't think I'm going to have that crazy hub sound, but again, that's something is whether or not you really need those extra degrees of free rotation before you actually engage the ratchet there, right? So again, it depends on your riding style, what you do. But if you're just gonna go bro science and you just want to sound cool, knock yourself out. I myself know that I haven't found a use yet for me for those 60, 80, 100 plus engagements points. So no use for me there. One thing to take note is the internal width of the rim. Depending on the width of your tire that you're going to be running, the internal width of the rim really matters. I have a Sunringle Duroc 40, and based on the specs, it's going to be about 40 millimeters outside width and internal width of 36 millimeters. And for a 2.8 width tire, that's about where the rim width should be, at least anyway. A great article on Pink Bike that I'm going to link in the description really describes the impacts of rim width. Now, if I run a really narrow rim and a really wide tire, what you're going to get is wide ballooning, right? The tire's going to look like it's ballooning, whereas a wider width rim is going to allow you to have straighter walls, and that's going to allow more engagement, more contact of the tire onto the ground just because of the width. So again, that's something that you should take into consideration when purchasing your wheel set, and it's basing what kind of tires you're going to run and how you're going to use it. What you see here also is that this came pre-taped for tubeless. That's something that I'll mount later in this video, but it's really something that you can also do yourself. The whole purpose of wrapping this with tape is just to essentially cover these holes for the nipples, so that you can have a quasi airtight, or actually watertight seal around the rim. That's really the main goal there, with one hole for the valve. So I've done it before using Gorilla Tape. I've done it before using Stan's tape. So at the end of the day, your main objective: cover these holes with some kind of adhesive strip, and you should be good to use your sealant, because even if there is a really small leak, the sealant should seal up those holes. Next up is tires. I picked the Minion DHR2s and the Recon Plus for tires that I'm going to be using. The Minion DHRs for my front wheel, the Recon Plus for my rear wheel. Main differences between tires is really just the tread patterns. What you'll notice is that really knobby tread patterns is probably going to give you a lot more grip on the trail. However, rolling resistance is going to suck. You're just more effort pedaling with more rolling resistance, less rolling resistance, less effort pedaling, and allowing you to keep at speed without having to provide more power into it to maintain it. Tires are really that's where the material science goes into. Most of the rubber compounds by manufacturer, that's where the secret sauce is. You know, they'll each have their own special recipe for the compounds. But in general principle, the softer the tire, the more grip you're going to be able to get with the ground. Just that it's able to bend and be manipulated so that it can contact the ground and keep that contact with the ground. But with that, you're going to sacrifice durability. And the harder the tire, the more durable that tire is going to be. You know, you're not going to last a lot longer, but you're also going to have a lot less traction, just because they're not going to be able to kind of mold to the ground as well as a soft tire is going to. A soft material really is going to do it. There's also strength in sidewall strength. What you'll see here is this EXO protection. That's really just about what they're doing on the sidewalls here to keep it from getting gashed or punctured. I believe the EXO is probably the second layer of protection. They have one without it, which is, I believe, their thinnest sidewall, and one above it in terms of their tier, which is more protection. What I've just noticed in general is just the running theme, just more material, more strength, the heavier it's going to be. So again, you're just going to sacrifice weight for durability, and the way they're going to do is just keep stacking material onto something there. Recon here just for comparison reasons. So your DHR here, like as you can see, just a lot knobbier, thicker knobs, allowing for more traction there. Again, more rolling resistance, less rolling resistance. And one final thought in terms of wheel set and tires, this is probably going to be either the second or the third most expensive components for your bike. I think if you're going to look for modern standards for wheel set, such as, you know, boost axles, wide rims, that's something that no matter where you look, for some reason they're not cheap. You can definitely find cheap drivetrains, you can find budget disc brakes, you can find budget hydraulic brakes. You, for some reason, cannot find budget wheel sets that are compliant with you know, today's standards that we're using right now. Definitely, if you're going to use the XD free body, that XD driver is going to up the cost of the wheel set by a bit. Your options are also a little bit limited as well. If budget is a concern, definitely go Shimano, not the microspline, or even the microspline I believe is cheaper than the XD driver and the groups that comes with it. So that's another thing to take into consideration, especially if you're on a budget. Hopefully you found that helpful. Thanks for watching.